Everyone, welcome to the Mercury Virtual. Hope you are doing good. Today I'm going to continue with your same module, that is a object-oriented programming, and the same chapter, that is a chapter number 1 in chapter number 8, that is the inheritance. In the last class we have discussed about the multiple inheritance. In the today's class I'm going to continue with the same inheritance topic but with the hybrid inheritance. So let's start with the basic concepts, or let's start with the last class introduction, that is what is a multiple inheritance, or what is the usage of multiple inheritance, right? So multiple inheritance means when there are more than one base class and there is only one derived class, that is known as the multiple inheritance. That is more than one base class but there is only one derived class. So this says a class can inherit the attributes of two or more classes. This is known as the multiple inheritance. That is, if there is a more than one classes or more than two classes, that is a form of, or that is a concept of multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance allows us to combine the features of several existing classes as a starting point for defining new classes. So whenever we say the multiple inheritance, that also combines various classes or various features of the various classes or various because it can inherit the properties from the more than one base class, that is a derived class. So that is the starting point, that is the main feature that is available with the multiple inheritance. The syntax of the derived class with the multiple base classes is as follows. This is the syntax that is we have studied, that is how to use the multiple base classes in the one class. This is a function that we have discussed practically as well as the theoretically. Then what is the resolution, or what is the ambiguity that is resolved, or what is the ambiguity that is available in the multiple inheritance? The ambiguity is that if there are two base classes and the same function is used in both the base classes, so which base class or which function will be taken by the derived class from the base class? So that is the ambiguity resolution. This will be resolved by using the protected mode, by using the scenario that is used, that is by using the scope resolution it is resolved. We have studied like this one. When we are using the scope resolution, that specifies that which class to use, whether A, whether B, whether C. That is, use the scope resolution operator. Next, we have discussed in the last class, that is the hierarchical inheritance. That is a there is one base class but there are multiple derived classes. That is opposite of the multiple inheritance. In multiple there are more than one base class, there is only one derived class. In hierarchical there is one base class and there are multiple derived classes. That is a hierarchical inheritance. This is example, that is a hierarchical inheritance. That is a student, and there are three parts of student, or that class is divided into three class. One is the base class and there are three derived classes, that is the arts, that is the engineering, that is the medical. So there are three base class derived classes from one base class, so that becomes a tree. So this is known as the hierarchical inheritance. That is a student, arts, engineering, medical. And engineering is also divided into three parts, that is known as the mechanical, that is known as the electrical, that is known as the civil. There are three parts of engineering. So this is known as the hierarchical inheritance because there is a it forms a tree, that is one is divided into another, another is divided into another. So this is a hierarchical inheritance. This is one of the example. There is a account, that is a class account, and there are two parts. One is a saving, one is the current account. There are two parts, and one more is fixed deposit account. So one is saving, one is current, one is a fixed deposit. Now fixed deposit is also divided into three parts. One is a short term, one is a medium term, one is a long term. So there are three parts: short term, medium term, and the long term. Again there are three parts, so that becomes a hierarchy, or this becomes a hierarchy because this is like a tree. One is divided into another, another is divided into another, another is divided into another. So this becomes a hierarchical inheritance. Now next is hybrid inheritance, that is today's topic. So let's continue with the hybrid inheritance. This is nothing but the combination of two inheritance, like multi-level inheritance and the multiple inheritance. Multi-level means the derived class becomes a base class for another derived class, and the multiple means there are more than one base classes for one derived class. So let's continue with the hybrid inheritance. So this is, there could be a situations where we need to apply two or more types of inheritance to design a program. That is, there are multiple scenarios, situations in which we have to apply more than one type of inheritance that is used. For example, consider the case of processing the student result discussed in the 8.5. That is, taking the same example that we took in the multi-level inheritance, that is for counting the or for calculating the result of a student. First of all, get the subject expert or the subject marks, that is subject 1 and the subject 2. Assume that we have to give the weightage for sports before finalizing the results. That is, there is also a criteria in some school that there is a weightage of the sports also, that is a physical education also, for representing the various games. The weightage for sports is stored in a separate class known as the sports. This is a separate class that is used, that is known as the sports. The new inheritance relationship between various classes would be as follows. So this is the sports class, that is a sports. This is the protected, that is the float score. So one of the variable that is used is the score. Then there is a public, then there is a get score and the put score. So there are again two parts. One is the get score, one is the known as the put score. And there are different arguments that is used. One is a float, one is the void. Then there is a closing of the curly braces and there is a semicolon. So this is sports, then protected, then public, and there are two member functions. One is the get score, one is the put score. The result will have both the multi-level and the multiple inheritances, and its declaration would be as follows. So this result contains both the multi-level and the multiple inheritance. That is combination of the multi-level and the multiple inheritance. And how, let's see how it is declared. So there is a class result. So first of all, the name of the class is result. Then there is a public test, public sports. So there are two classes, that is derived class, that is the result is a derived class from the two base classes, that is the result and the sports, test and the sports. Result is the main part that contains features from the test as well as the sports. The test contain the various marks in the subjects and the sports contain the marks in the sports. So that is the main requirement for calculating the total result. And there is a curly braces, there is a curly braces, there is a semicolon. Where the test itself is a derived class from students. Test is also a derived class, so that's why it is known as the multi-level inheritance. This is the example, or this is the syntax that is used. The test is derived from the student class. Right. So this is the how it is used. That is, first of all there is a student, then there is a test, then there is a sports, and then after there is a result. That means first of all student, then test, then sports, then result, like this one. Test, then inherit classes to test, and there is a result. In the same way, these are the two base classes, that is the test and the support, and this is the derived class, that is a result. Right. This is another example that shows how the inheritance will be used. So this is a hybrid inheritance. There is a class that is known as a student. This is the protected. That means a protected variable is used. That is a roll number. The same example. And in a public part, there are various member functions. One is the get number, that is used for getting the number. That is assigns the number. That is roll number equals to A. That is A will be assigned to the roll number. Right. Then there is a put number, then see out roll number, that will use to display the roll number of the student. So one is used for getting the or storing the roll number of a student, one is used for putting or displaying the roll number of the student on the screen. That is a class student. Then the class will be closed like this one. So this is known as the inline functions. Why? Because every function is declared in the class only. So this is the inline function. This is inline function and this is inline function. Then there is a class test, there is a public student. Now the class test is also derived from the student class. So this is a class test, then there is a public, then there is a student. Then protected, in a protected mode there are two data member that is declared. One is the part 1 and one is the part 2. So there are two data member that is available in the test class, that is a part 1 and the part 2. Then in public there are two parts, there are two member functions that is used. One is the get marks, one is the put marks. In get marks, there are two arguments that is used. One is the float x, one is the float y. Now this x will be assigned to the part 1 and the y will be assigned to the part 2. Well, there are two parts of this examination that is contained in the class test. So that is the part 1 and the part 2. So that is part 1 equals to x and the part 2 equals to y. In the same way, after getting the marks, there is a displaying of the marks by using the member functions. So this is used as a cout marks obtained, then part 1, then part 2. That is, in the part 1, how many marks, by using the variable, that is the value will be stored in the variable, that is part 1. In the same way, part 2, the value will be stored in the part 2. So these are the two member functions that is used. One is the get number, one is the put number. The get number is used to simply get the marks in the various subjects, marks in the various parts, that is the part 1 and the part 2, and the put marks is used to display these marks on the screen, that is the put marks, that is in part 1 and the part 2. Then class sports, that contains, or this is a new class, that is a sport that does not depends, or does not derive class. This is just a base class, that is protected float score. So this is also used, that is when data member is used, that is a get score, then assigns a value of s to the score, that is a score equals to x s. Then there is a void put score, that is displaying the score on the screen, that is a put score. Then cout sports wt, then there is a score, that is a what is the score in the sports, that is stored in the score variable, so that will be used to display on the screen, that is what is the score. Then there is a class result, that is declared or that is derived from the two classes. One is the test, one is the sports. So this is one of the class and this is one of the class that becomes the base class for the another class, that is a result. Right. And publicly it is derived. There is a float total, that is the total of the float. Total is a variable that is private by default. There is no protected, there is no public, that is private by default. Then there is a public, that is a public keyword is used, and there are two member functions in this that is used. One is the void display, void, then the another one is for displaying the result. There is only one member function that is used, that is display, for displaying the whole result in a single function. Now this is the definition of this display function. So this is used as a void result, and there is a scope resolution operator, and there is a member function that is used. That is a void result, that is the name of the class as result, and there is a scope resolution operator. The member function name is display, that is the display is the name of the function, and the argument list is void, that is a void result display void. Then total the values or total the marks of a student, that is part 1, part 2, and the score, that is adding up the values or adding up the marks of a student in various subjects as well as in the sports, that is contained in the score variable. Now this is the important part. Put number will be code. Now simply put number variable or put number function will be code, that is a put number. This is the put number, simply displaying the roll number. In the same way, put score, simply displaying the score. Then put result, simply put underscore score, and the put marks, this is the put score and this is the put marks, that is used to display the roll number, marks, and the marks in the sports. Then cout total score, that is done, or that is calculated by adding the values, that is part 1 and the part 2, and there is a score, that is cout total score equals to total, and total contains C1 or the various numbers, various marks in the subjects, various scores in the games, or various score in the sports that is used, and then calculate the total, that is total equals to part 1 plus part 2 plus score. Then there is a int main, that is the main function that is used. Then there is a result, that is the name of the class, that is the main class, that is the result. Then there is a student 1, that is student 1 is the name of the object. Then student 1 dot get number, Now whenever this is used, that is dot get number, then suddenly it is going then it is moved to the, or when this function is declared, it directly jump to the get number function. So this is the get number that is used, that is assigning the value of value or number to a roll number variable or the roll number variable. Then get marks, in the same way it is used, that is 27.5 and the 33.0. These are two assigned to the various marks, that is a part 1 and the part 2. Then there is a get score, that is a score function that is used to store the variable in the score variable, that is a score. Then display function, at last display each and every part. This is the display function. First of all, the marks will be displayed, roll number will be displayed, and there is a score, that is a total of all the marks, that is P1, that is part 1, part 2 and the sports, that is the main result of the student. Then there is a return 0, that is exit of the screen, exit of the main function. So this is the roll number, that is 1 2 3 4 by from example. Then it is displayed, marks obtained in part 1 27.5, in part 2 33.5, in sport there is a 6, and the calculation of these three values, that is 27.5, 33 and the 6, is known as the, or it is calculated as the 66.5. That is the total score, because adding up the part 1, part 2 and there is a sports, that is the total score, that is 66.5. Now let's see this in a practical way, or after the class let's see this in a practical way, that is how to implement the hybrid inheritance. Right, now the next topic is, so hybrid inheritance means the combination of two inheritance, that is a multi-level inheritance and the hybrid and the multiple inheritance. So one is multi-level, one is a multiple. And then how we have seen that how the result will be calculated based on the all the classes, that is a sport, that is a result, that is a student. Every class has some participation for calculating the final result. Now the next topic is virtual base class. So this is related to the base class, that is known as the virtual base class. So this says we have discussed just a scenario in which we require the more than one inheritance will be used at the same time. That is the usage of both the multiple and the multi-level inheritance. Consider a situation where all kinds of inheritance, namely multi-level, multiple and the hierarchical inheritance are involved. So this is just a scenario that there are multiple inheritance that is involved in a single function. And then the child has two direct base classes, for example parent 1 and the parent 2, which themselves have some common base class, that is a grandparent. This is just an example, that is there is a child that has two base class, that is the parent 1 and the parent 2. Now the parents have also the base class, that is known as the grandfather or the grandmother, that is a grandparent. The child inherits the traits of the grandparent via two separate paths. That is indirectly the child gets the value from the various parents, so it inherits the traits of the grandparents via two separate paths. What are the two separate paths? One is the father, one is the mother, that is the parent 1 and the parent 2. It can also inherit directly as shown by the broken line. That grandparent is sometimes referred as an indirect base class. That is why it is known as indirect base class, because indirectly the material will be coming from that grandparent class. So that is known as the indirect base class. Now this is the grandparent, these are the various parents, and this is the child. So grandparent can opt, or grandparent can give the inherit the features to the parents, and the parents get or gives the features or the properties to the child. And there is a direct relationship. Direct relationship means there is a relationship, but the indirect relationship, so that will be denoted by the dot line. Why there is a relationship? Because indirectly the content will arrive to the student, to the child, whether from the different path, like the father and the mother, that is the parent 1 and the parent 2. This is a multi-path inheritance, or this is the, yeah, this is a multi-path inheritance. inheritance by the child as shown in figure 8.12 might poses some problem. So what is the problem in this? First of all, tell me. The same problem that we have discussed in the last class, that is if these two functions or if these two classes have the same dress, have the same name, have the same object, so how we can possible to differentiate between various base classes? So all the public and the private members of grandparent are inherited into the child twice. That is, this is also one of the limitation, that first of all the grandparent gives the properties or give their features to the parent one, then parent also gets the features to the or provide the feature to the child. So this is that is they are been in a protected mode. They are inherit or they can inherit into the child twice, first via parents, then via parent 2. So so these are the two. This is one of the challenging factor, that with the help of parent 1 and the parent 2, child gets the twice data. That is not necessary, that is a wastage of the memory. So this means the child would have duplicate set of members inherited from the grandparent. This introduces ambiguity and should be avoided. So this also introduces one of the ambiguity that must be resolved. The duplication of inherited members due to these multiple paths can be avoided by making the common base class. So the duplication of these inherit properties or inherit members due to the various multiple path due to the various path that is available, that can be avoided by making the common base class, that is the ancestor class, as known as the virtual base class. So how this duplication of inherit properties can be avoided? By using the common base class, that is known as the virtual base class, while declaring the direct or indirect or intermediate base classes as shown below. So how this duplication will be removed? By using the virtual base class. Now let's see how to use the virtual base class. This is the syntax. First of all, there is a grandparent class, that is a grandparent, that is a class A. Then there is a class B, that is a B1, that is a parent 1. Then there is a public A, virtual public A. So in this we have declared the virtual keyword, and there is a public A. That is, in a virtual way it is derived, or the B1 class is derived from the class that is a A class. In a virtual way, that is in a dynamic way. Then class B1, class B2, then there is a public virtual A, that is in a public keyword is coming before, then the virtual keyword, and then there is a that is there is a single base class, and that is derived from the more than one base classes, that is the B1 and the B2. Now there is the class C, that is also derived, that is we can say the hierarchical inheritance or indirect inheritance. Sorry, not hierarchical, that is a hybrid inheritance or the indirect inheritance. The class C also contains or also gets the properties from the public B1 and the B2. So these are also the classes that becomes the first of all they are the derived classes. Now then they become the base classes for the another derived class. So this says, when a class is made a virtual base class, C++ takes necessary action care to see that only one copy of that class is inherited. So whenever I use the virtual function, so it's the responsibility of inheritance to take care of each and everything, so that only one copy of the class can be submitted, or only one copy of that class is inherited by the various inherited by the child process, by the small process or the small class, that is a child, regardless of how many inheritance paths exist between virtual base class and the derived class. So there is no requirement, there is no thing that is used. So regardless of how many inheritance path that exists between the virtual base class and the derived class, it is used or it is made as a virtual base class. The keyword virtual and public may be used in either order. So we can use either virtual public or the public virtual, no issues. But it's recommendation to use the keywords before the various visibility modifier. That is, a virtual will be used, or virtual should be used before the public keyword. This is the example. That is, for example, I'm so sorry. For example, consider again the student result processing system that is discussed in section 8.8. That is, there is a student, there is a roll number, and there is a test, there is a sports, and there is a result. That is discussed as a result processing system. Assume that the class sports derives from the roll number or derives the roll number from the class student. That is just one of the example that the class sports derives the enroll number from the class student. So this that becomes the student becomes the base class and the sports becomes the derived class. Then the inheritance relationship will be shown as below. Student give the properties or make the properties or make the inherit class to the class test1. That is, as it is used or it is used as a virtual base class, that is it is provided to the virtual base class, that is student will be the base class and the derived class is test1. Then there is a as a virtual base class it is also apply or it also provides the feature to the sports. So student is a base class and these are the two derived classes, right? Now these are the two base classes, that is the test and the sports, and there is only one single derived class, that is the result. So first of all, there is a single base class and there are multiple derived classes, and then there are multiple base classes and there is only one derived class. Now this is a program that is used to view the virtual base class. There is a class student, that is the name of the class is student, and then protected there is a roll number, then get number in a public, then put number in a public. Then there is a test, then the test is a derived class that is taken as a virtual and the public, then student, that is the name of the base class. Then in protected mode there are two data member that is available, that is a part 1 and the part 2. Then in a public class there are two again member functions, one is the get marks, one is the put marks. So everything is same, one is get marks, one is get number, one is put number. That is get marks float x float y. Now assigns the value of x into the part 1, y into the part 2. That is the part 1 equals to x, part 2 equals to y. Then void put marks, that is assigning the or using the next member function for displaying on the screen, that is the put marks. Then void, then see out marks obtained, that is the name of marks will be obtained. Then in a part 1 how many marks is available, then in part 2 how many marks is available, that is a part 1 and the part 2. Then there is a closing of this one and there is a closing of this one and there is a semicolon. Then class sports, that is the name of the class is sports, that is a derived class that is also used or that is also used as a derived class, that is derived from the class that is a student. This is a sports. Then there is a public virtual student. Then there is a protected, the name of the we can say the data member is score. Then void get score, then there is a get or the put score. So this is for the getting purpose, that is taking out the that is storing the values of x into the score. Now the score variable contains the s value. Now next is put score, that is displaying the score on the screen, that is the C outs. Sports weightage is score, that is displaying the value that is entered by the user, that is provided by the us, that is a score. So we have discussed about the student class that contains two parts, one is the test class, one is the sports class. Then there is a class result that is also derived from the two base classes, that is a test and the sports. So first of all the test is derived from the upper base class, that is student. Next the test is also derived or sports is also derived from the base class, their base class, that is a student. Now there is a class result, that is the name of the class as result, and there are two base classes, one is the test, one is the sports. Then there is a public member that is available, that is a float total, that is the name of the variable. Then there is a public, that is void display, that is a display function is used to display the value, display the variables, that is marks obtained, part 1, part 2 and the total. Now this is the explanation of the void result, that is void result. Then there is a scope resolution operator, then there is a display function. Now this will be used to simply denote or define the member function, define the variable that is used, that is known as the display function. Then in this there is a total variable that is used, that combines each and every subject marks as well as the score, that is a part 1, part 2 and the score. So these are the two parts, or these are the two subjects, and there is a score that is available from the sports, that is the part 1, part 2 and the score, that is also contained in the total variable. Then put number will be called to simply display the number on the screen. Put marks, simply display the marks on the screen. Put score, simply provide the score on the screen. Then there is a total. Then total score is represented by the totals. Total is a variable that is used to represent each and every thing. That is a part 1, part 2 and the score. Then there is a int main, that is the starting of the main function, that is the bottom approach, that's why it's starting at the bottom, that is the int main. Then there is a result, and the name of the object is student1. So what is the name of the object? That is a student1. Then use the member functions with the help of the dot operator, like this one, that is student1 dot get number. So first of all, the roll number will be assigned to the student, that is done by the get number, that is 678. Then student1 get marks, that also contains two float values, that is 30.5 and 25.5. So whenever this get marks function will be declared when we call, it directly jump to the get marks function. This is known as the get marks function, simply displaying the value of the part 1 and the part 2. Then there is a get score, that is getting the score, that is 7.0. So this is the get score. This is the function that is used, that is the get score, that is providing the score or providing the 7.4 or the 7.0 to the score variable. Then student1 dot display, that is the display function is used to display each and every thing. Now the roll number is 678. The marks obtained in part 1, that is 30.5. In part 2, that is 25.5. Then the first weightage is 7 only. Then there is a score, that is total score, that is 63, that is a part 1, part 2 and the sports. Right. So this is known as the virtual base class. Now next is the abstract class. So abstract class is one that is not used to create the objects. So whenever we use the abstract classes, there is no requirement to create the object to access the elements. So it is designed only to act as a base class, that is to be inherited by other classes. So this is designed only to act as a base class, not act as a derived class. So always it is always this class, that is abstract class, will be inherited to uh, find out each and everything. It is a design concept in program development and provides a base upon which other classes may be built. So first of all, it is not used to create the object. Also, it provides a platform to write the program, to develop the program, to provide the base upon which each other classes may be built. In the previous example, a student class is an abstract class. It was not used to create any object. That is not used to create any object, but simply the base class that is used. That is known as the abstract class, that is not used to create the objects. Now next is constructors in the derived class, that is how to use the constructors in the derived class so that it cannot be impacted on the So next topic is constructors in the derived class. But before this, let's take a break right now because I'm too tired today. So let's take a break, then move to the practical part, that is how to use the practical part. So let's take a break right now. Now come back from the break. Now let's start the session again. So next topic is how to use the constructors in the derived class. That is, what is the usage of constructor, or what is the main advantage, or what is the main criteria for using the or using the constructors in the derived class. Remember, what is a constructor? That is used to automatically assigns the object to the value. That is, automatically it assigns a value to the object. That is a constructor. So this says, as we know, the constructor plays an important role in initializing the objects. As I said to you, or as I told to you, that constructors are used in initializing the objects. We did not use them earlier in the derived classes for the sake of simplicity. One important thing to note that is that as long as no base class constructor takes any argument, the derived class need not have any constructor function. However, if any base class contains a constructor with one or more argument, then it is mandatory for the derived class to have a constructor. So if there is any base class that contains a constructor with one or more argument, then it is mandatory for the derived class to take the constructor, because derived class is what? That is derived from the base class. So if it is derived, or if it is a constructor that is available in the base class, so that must be or there is a mandatory condition that it is also available, that the constructor is also available in the derived class, and pass the argument to the base class constructors. Remember, while applying inheritance, we usually create objects using the derived class. That is, while applying the inheritance, while making the inheritance, we usually create the objects using the derived class. Therefore, it makes sense for the derived class to pass the argument to the base class constructors. That is, it also provides a sense, or it also provides a method for the derived class to pass the argument to the base class constructor. So when the both in the that is the both the base and the derived class contains the constructor, the base constructor is executed first, and then the constructor in the derived class is executed. So when in the both classes, that is the derived and the base class, there is a constructor, so that must be followed, or that must be executed, or that must be used. So which one is to be executed first? So the answer is the base constructor is executed first, and the constructor then the constructor in the derived class is executed. So first of all, the base class constructor is executed, then only the derived class constructor is executed. In case of multiple inheritance, the base classes are constructed in the order in which they appear in the declaration of the derived class. So if there is a multiple inheritance, that is, multiple means more than one base classes. So constructors are constructed, or the base classes are constructed, or constructors are used in base classes in the order in which they appear in the declaration of the derived class. So it depends on the declaration. If it is declared first, then the first of all it will be used. If it is declared second, then in second part it will be used. So it depends upon the order in which they appear in the declaration of the derived class. Similarly, in a multi-level inheritance, the constructors will be executed in the order of the inheritance. So in the case of multiple inheritance, it depends on the order. In case of multi-level inheritance, it also depends upon the order in which they are executed, that is in the order of the inheritance. Since the derived class takes the responsibility of applying or supplying initial values to its base class, that is, since the derived class also takes the responsibility, or also provides the responsibility of supplying the initial values to the base class, we supply the initial value that are required by all the classes together when a derived class object is declared. And how they pass to the base class constructor, so what their job. So C++ provides a new mechanism for passing the mechanism that I'm not taking right now, because there is a practical session also, practical approach also. So now let's move to the practical approach. Then in the tomorrow's class we will take up this topic, that is a derived constructor, or the how to use the constructor in the derived classes. So let's continue with the practical approach. Tomorrow this chapter also finishes, then moves to the next part, that is the pointers, virtual function, and the polymorphism. Now let's move to the practical part. Today we have discussed with the hybrid inheritance. So let's take the first of all, that is a practical approach, that is a hybrid inheritance. So let's continue with the hybrid inheritance. That is, what is hybrid inheritance, right? So first of all, there is a hash include iostream.h, then hash include conio.h. Then there is a class, that is the first class that is used, that is a student, that is a student class. Then there's a curly braces. Then one variable will be declared, that is a protected. Then in this there is one variable, that is a int roll number. For example, this is the example that we have discussed, that is a roll number, right? Then in a public mode it is used, that is public. Then there is a void, then there is a get number, then there is a int a, then again there is a same curly braces, then assigns the roll number, that is assigns the a value to the roll number. This is the get number definition, so this becomes an inline function. Then there is a void, then there is a put number, then there is a void, then simply use the cout, that is a cout, that is roll number is, then there is a roll number, then there is a slash n, then there is a curly braces, then this class also closes. Now this is the one class, that is the student class. Now let's see, this is the base class, or this becomes the base class. Now let's see another class that becomes a derived class. So that is a class, that is a test, there is a derived declaration, that is a public, then there is a student. Then there is a protected, then in this there is a there are two variable, that is float 1, sorry, part 1 and the part 2, right? Then in we have declared in a public declaration, there are two variable that is used, that is first of all void get number, that is void, then there is a get marks, that is a float x comma float y. Then again this is a declaration that is used, that is a part 1 equals to x, then part 2 equals to y. Then again there is a void, then there is a put marks, then again there is a void, then cout, that is marks obtained, then uh, it is also used that in a part 1 there is also a class marks maintained, so this is also printed like this one, that is in a part 1. Then there is a part 1, then cout, then there is a part 2, then there is a part 2. So this is the closing of this one, and then this is the closing of this one. This is the class test, that is also closed. Now next class is class sports. Then there is a protected, then there is a float, then there is a score, then there is a public. So in this, one variable is declared, one member variable, that is a score. Now there is a public, again there is a member functions, for example get score, then there is a float s, then there is a score equals to s, then there is a void, then there is a put score, then there is a void. Then again there is a cout, that is used for display, that is a sports, weightage, then there is a score, then in the double quotes there is a slash n. So then there is a closing of this class also, that is a class sports. Now let's move to last class, that is a class result, that is a derived class from both the classes, that is the test and the support sports. That is a public test comma public sports. Then again there is a float, then there is a total, then again this is a public, then void display, then there is a void, that is the display function is used. Now this is the closing of this class. This is not an inline function, this is declared over here, that is void display, sorry, void, this name of the class is result, then there is a scope resolution operator, then display, then there is a variable, that is void, then total equals to part 1 plus part 2 plus score. The input number, that is a put number, then there is a put marks, then there is a put score. Then see out. This is one of the important see out, that is total score, then there is a total variable. Then this is the closing of this member function. Now there is a int main, that is starting over here. Then very object will be declared, that is student1. Now using the student1, then dot, that is a get number. For example, we have given as a 25 roll number, then student1 dot get marks, then in bracket there are two float values, for example 25.5 and 55.5. Then student1 dot get score, then there is a 6.0, or we can say 5.0. Then student1 dot display, then there is a get ch, then there is a return 0. Now there is also a clear screen for clearing the screen. If I compile the code, this will be printed. That is roll number is 25. The marks obtained is 25.5 and the 55.5, and the sports weightage is 5, so total marks is 86. Now if I change this value to the 9, and if I make a changes, that is part 1, part 2, this will not print as it is, this will print as it is. That is a part 1, part 2, then this will also print. If I compile, there is no error. If I execute, the roll number is 25, the marks obtained is 25.5 and the 55.5, that is 81 marks. Then the sports weightage is 9, so 81 plus 9 is 90. So these are three clubbed together, that is 25.5, 55.5, and there is a sports weightage, that is a 9, that clubbed together, and then that becomes a, or there becomes a total 90. So the very output is the marks obtained plus the sports weightage, that is a 9, that is total score is 90, right? So now let's see, first of all save this file, then see what are the various parts or how we can use this program. So first of all, saved with the hybrid name, hybrid. Now first of all let's see whether it is visible to you. Now let's see each and every module, each and every figure, that is how it will be used. Again going to this one. Now there is a first of all header files, that is the iostream.h, that is the input output stream.h, and the connew.h, that is a common input output.h. Then there is a class student, so name of the class is student, and in a protected mode there is a data member that is used, that is a roll number, and then there is a public, that is there are two member functions, one is a get number for getting the roll number, one is a put number for displaying the roll number. So one is a get number, one is a put number. The get number is used for getting the roll number, the put number is used to display the roll number on the screen. So this is the return type, that is a void. These are the argument, that argument is of integer value. So whatever the value that we have given, that converts the either the float value, double value, any value into the integer part. Why? Because we have specified the argument type, that is the data type is the integer, that is a int a. Then there is a roll number equals to a, that is assigns the value of a, that is supplied by the user to the roll number, that is roll number equals to a. Then there is a put number, that is a void put number, that is the next function that is used is the put number, and the argument that is used is the void, that is a put number. There is no argument because it is only used for displaying on the or display on the screen. That is cout, the roll number is a roll number. Then there is a next line, that is a backslash n, that is used for moving to the next line. So this is printed as it is, that is the roll number is, then there is a roll number. The roll number will be printed over here. Then this is the closing of this class, that is the class student, and there is a semicolon. So this is the class student that is used. So there is one data member that is used, that is roll number, and there are two member functions, that is the public categories. One is the get number, one is the put number. Now next is class test, that is a derived class that takes the properties from the class student. So there is a class test that takes the property from the class student. So this is class test, then there is a public student. Then there is a protected mode. There are two data members that is used, that is a part 1 and the part 2. So there are two data members in the test class, that is the part 1 and the part 2. Then in a public mode, there are two member functions, one is the get marks, one is the put marks. So in the get marks there are two arguments, there are two variables that is used, that is the float x and the float y. So this is the get marks. There are two arguments that is used. One is of float category, another also of a float category, that is the float x and the float y. And the name of the function, name of the member function is get marks. Then part 1 equals to x, that is the assigns the value of x into the part 1, or providing the value or supplying the value of x into the part 1. That is whatever the value that is given by the user, that is first value becomes the part 1 marks, second value becomes the part 2 marks, that is the x and the y. Then again put marks, that is used for displaying on the screen, that is the put marks. Then there is a void, that is there is no return type, there is no argument. So it is only used for displaying on the screen. So what is the need of the argument? What is the need of the return type? Because it does not return anything, it does not take anything. So there is a void, there is a void. Then cout marks obtained, that is whatever the marks obtained, that is obtained by the user, that is the marks obtained. Then cout part 1, that is whatever the or what is the marks obtained in the part 1. Then cout part 2, that what's the marks obtained in the part 2. Then this is the put marks function. This is also an inline function because it is declared in the same class, that is the put marks, or that is declared in the test class. Then there is a curly braces, that is closed. Then there is a semicolon. So this is the class test that is derived from the class student. So till now we have studied the student class, that is a base class, the test class, that is a derived class, that is derived from the class student. The the student class contains two member functions: get number for getting the roll number, put number for displaying the roll number on the screen. In the same way, there is a test class that contains two member functions. One is a get marks, one is a put marks. Get marks is used to getting the value or for getting the value from the user, that is a get marks. There are two values, part 1 and the part 2. There is a put marks for displaying on the screen, that is the part 1 and the part 2. And again, in the student class there is a roll number, that is a data member. In test class there is a data member, that is your part 1 and the part 2. There are two data members. Then there is a class sports. That is the next class, that is the class sports. Then there is a protected. Then there is a float score, that is the name of the data member is float score, and the name of the class is class sports. This data member is of protected type, that is a score. So name of the data member that is used is the score. Then there are again one member function. There are two member functions in this also. One is the get score, that is the getting the score from the user, that is the get score. Then float s, that is the s is the value that is given by the user, that is assigned to the score. Then there is a put score, that is displaying or display on the screen, that is a sport weightage, that is a score, that is the put score. So one is the get score, one is the put score. So get score is used for getting the values and put score is used for displaying on the screen. Then there is a class result, that is the result class, that is the next class, that is derived from the two classes. There are two classes that is derived, or that becomes the base class for the derived class, that is a result. So class result, then there is a public test and the public sports. So there are two base classes that is used, one is the test, one is the sports. So this contains, or this takes a feature from the two classes, that is the test and the sports. So this result class is derived from the two base classes, that is the test and the sports. So there are two base classes, one is the test, one is the sports. So every data member of the sports, every data member of the test are involved, are compiled together, clubbed together into the class, that is the result. There is a data member that is used, that is a total, that is by default it is private, that is private by default, that is a total. Then in a public part there is a function that is used, that is a display function. This is void display void. Again there is no return type, there is no argument that is passed, that is a display function. Then there is a semicolon curly braces that is used for display, or that is used for closing the class, that is a class. Then there is a void result. Now display function does not become the inline function, and this is declared outside of the class, that is a void result display, that is used to display on the screen. Again there is no return type, there is no argument. Then using the variable that is declared, that is a total, that is equals to part 1 plus part 2 plus score. So there are three parts, there are three categories, that is a part 1, that is a part 2, and there is a score. So that is part 1, part 2 and the score. Then there is a put number. Then there is a put marks, then there is a put score. So there are three member function that is also used. One is the put number, one is the put marks, one is the put score. So first of all, it is adding up all the three values, that is the part 1, part 2 and the score. Then put number will be called, that is simply use or simply go to display the roll number on the screen. Then put marks, simply display the two parts or the two subject marks on the screen, right? Then next is put score, simply used to display the sports or score on the screen, right? Then display the total score, that is your total, that contains the total variable, that is the part 1 plus part 2 plus score. Now there is a int main, because it's a bottom approach, so it's a int main. Then there is a result student1. So then this is the object that is created of the main class. Main class is derived class, that is derived from the two classes, one is the test, one is the score. So this is the student1, that is the name of the object, that is of class result. Then there is a clear screen for clearing on the screen. Then student1 dot get number, that is getting the number from the, or getting the number, or call the function or call the member function, that is a get number, that is student1 dot get number. So whenever there is a get number, this information, this value will be supplied to the roll number, because get number contains roll number equals to A. Now A value becomes 25, like this one, 25 it is going like this one. Now this is int A, that is 25, so roll number equals to 25. Now roll number has the value 25. In the same way, get marks, that is getting the marks, that contains also two values, that is 25.5 and the 55.5. Then again get score, that contains one value, that is 9.0. Then again display function for displaying on the screen. This is the display function, so this will print as it is. So first of all, it get the value of the roll number, then get the value of the part 1 and the part 2, then get the value of the score, and then there is a display function. Then there is a get ch and there is a return 0. Why return 0? Because we have used the int main over here. So this is the concept of the hybrid inheritance, how hybrid inheritance will be used. If I compile this code, the roll number is 25, the marks obtained in part 1 25.5, part 2 55.5, the sports weightage is 9 and the total score is 90. That is a part 1 plus part 2, that becomes 81, and there is the sport weightage, that is a 9, that becomes the 9. This is the concept of the hybrid inheritance. Now if there is any doubts, any confusions, then you can ask from me. This program is clear to each and everyone, Larry and Olesa? Okay, Olesa, this program is clear to you? Alright, no issues. So that's all for today's session. In the tomorrow's class, we'll be taking the next topic, that is how to use the constructors in the derived class. That is the constructors in the derived classes. There are more than one derived class, there is only one derived class, so how to use the constructors in the derived classes. So that's all for today's session. If there is any doubts about the hybrid inheritance, any topic, anything, you can ask from me. So thanks a lot everyone for listening me. Yes, yes, yeah Larry, tell. Yes, your assessment, your assignments are ready to supply to you, but there are some Edexcel information that assignment will be supplied to you in the next week basically, so that there will be a clarification for the Edexcel that there is a changes in the assignment. So we will make this changes in the this week, and I will supply this assignment in the next week. All right. Anything else? Welcome. Anything else? So that's all for today's session. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye bye.